as synopsis. Weakness and strength as it is interpreted at the associative for sensibility. The intersections of what is interpreted as per what they were aware of. The strain between generations. Despite our willingness to offer an insight between the presents attempting to distinguish their abuse from their awareness, perspective from many people only interpreted resistance, where an intelligence could support their permission to be at the same time. In the bid for asset policed and reality perceived. An asset was identified, and it wanted to be popular in the public awareness. What happened was power attempted to consolidate itself at the anger's ripeness essentially. They were told what they wanted to hear, that was enough, it was a song that sounded nice, so all myopia, and pretension, insulated itself amidst the psychological spectrums of younger women especially. It didn't want to ask, but assumed itself the harbinger of something's enlightenment. The promise of city lights, and the respect of wealth. The political intention here, tunnel vision them towards pretensions of basenesses and degeneracies at the association with certain thoughts, and made virtue out of denigrating and isolation of thought forms as a universal problem. As well as a socio-economic pretense. A behaviorism in the respect was to sanctify respect and reality. As a voice, we haven't been solvent to this. The problem is, contrasts and awarenesses of the world of yesterday, although not as intimate nor broad, retain the quality of contrast. They are still the expression of yesterday if not in that world anymore. This may have rendered reality forced in isolation, a more casually perceivable if not cynically saturating norm. Myopia is easily identifiable, attempts at gravitating that, noticeable, polarity isn't that convincing. Money and media is in power for the same reason it was yesterday, but it does distinguish itself as trying. And they spent millions doing it. A line of measure of people is less real. But they required that in you, in order to know themselves as the opposite. Thus a consciousness that is higher to the time is broken down, as a property has been stolen. Put sarcastically. All the same, the sociological interaction of recent has represented the attrition of corporate powers. In 2 North American nations. The misdirecting placement of advertising, never axiomed a relational awareness and shame and motivation based on what was going to inspire us here. An affirmation of authority over reality, failed, it stood on encompassing. And it showed. For some reason principle about what was universally, as a set of forms, as enemy and as nuisance didn't describe all quality of people's perceptual awareness and circumstance and isolation for would-be inheritors of a culture's function. And thus a constant within the inconsistencies of realities, and peoples began showing reality as bearing them. I supported seeing contrastingly, but I don't think I masterminded this. I could have told you a constant in the processing of reality between peoples that I could see this coming from a few years away. And I feel like that impasse is expressive of a bid for impression upon reality identifiably undercomprehensive of perspective outside of one, in a worldly sense perhaps, and illustrating a lack of flexibility and resolve for would-be authorities on it. It's small feudal world with small people after all. And I wanted to look itself in the mirror at this moment, and see who it is. People are better natured elsewhere still. I think what was evident here otherwise was that the wake of that contrast naturalized the perceptions in what tries to be focal in describing reality with its means. Thus something in the polarity of the bipartisan and the control over narrative between corporate medias is outgrowing itself sociologically,